Hey everyone, how's it going? I hope you're all doing great and following the 3 H's of the channel. And in this video, it's all about the state of Tennessee. I actually have family who live there, so it would be super cool to visit someday. But I'll have to make sure to stay away from all of these parts of the state, and you'll see why. So pull up a stump with me, and let's jump into it. Thank you for watching. So this story was sent in to me by Dylan. So Dylan, I hope I can do your story justice. My story takes place in eastern Tennessee. I was driving around a back road on the way to pick up my little sister and her friend from a party. It was about 11 o'clock in early October. I come around a bend in the road in my little Mitsubishi, and I see a large dog-like thing. It's on all fours. It's in the middle of the road. As my headlights illuminate it stands straight up on two legs. It's pitch black and impossibly skinny, and the only features I'm for sure about is its large dog-like head. It towers over my car, takes 2 steps, and is gone into the brush. I freak the hell out. I drive the next few miles to my sister's party, going 80 on these back roads, constantly checking the sides of the road. When I get there, I back in so I can keep my lights shined on the side of the road that this beast disappeared into. I text my sister to hurry the hell up. Her and her friend come out, and I tell them not to speak a word until we get to the highway, because I believe that this thing is a skinwalker, and to speak of them can encourage them to show themselves, and I don't ever want to see that thing again. We get to the highway, and I vaguely tell them what I saw, so as not to lure it again. My sister immediately believes me, and says that I could never fake being that scared. In the end, I've never encountered it again, thankfully, but that monster puts the fear of God into my atheist body. So thank you to Dylan for sending that in. Just to start this off, I don't care if you believe me, and I fully expect you to think that I'm lying. I have no proof that this took place back in the 90s, because cell phones weren't exactly common then, and we certainly didn't have cameras. So I was 16 in the late 90s. I was home alone one night. My family went out to a restaurant. I was grounded for calling my brother certain names that I won't repeat here. After he kicked me, my little brother got off scot-free. Now I didn't and still don't do drugs. I was a pretty decent kid for the most part. I was laying in my bed, staring at the weird popcorn-looking stuff on the ceiling at night, until I heard the trash cans rattle. We lived in a rural area, so raccoons and opossums were common. I grabbed my pellet rifle and walked toward the back door, and then I stop when I hear this weird chattering. It sounded like chirping and clicking. I don't really know how to describe it at all. I quietly open the door, and I walk out to where the trash cans were, and what I see are these little greenish, gray-skinned things. They had pointy elf ears, but were no taller than a medium-sized dog. They had large, completely black eyes and slits for mouths. They were really skinny, so skinny to the point that I could see their bones and rib cages. I'm not really good at drawing, but I did my best here. One of them is rummaging through the trash can while 3 others are tearing up trash bags and messing with the garbage. I shoot one and the pellet goes into its back. It didn't bleed, but it turned around and made a loud shrieking noise. They all turn around and start shrieking. The little gremlins start throwing garbage at me, and I bolt back inside and lock the door. I stay in my room until my parents get home. While waiting, those things threw rocks at my window. They weren't strong enough to break it, but they did crack it. I've never seen them again, and I hope that I never do. I know this wasn't really scary, but I just felt like I needed to get this off my chest. When I was 16, I was attending a summer camp that was pretty deep in the mountains. It took 30 minutes just to get to the nearest gas station, and I was the quiet kid that could just kind of disappear. It was late at night, around 12 or so. The rest of the guys were off doing dumb stuff. When they come back, the conversation quickly steers to demonic or spirit stuff, as usual. We play a game that's called Creeper. All the lights are off, and one person is it, while the others hide in the cabin. The Creeper is supposed to find you in a pitch black, dark cabin, and then act like they're choking you, and then it's game over. Everyone hides. There's a total of 6 kids. I managed to stash myself in the water heater closet. 2 of the others hide themselves under the bunk beds. There's 2 more in the top of the bunks. So the kid playing the Creeper comes out of the bathroom and starts looking for us. After 1 minute, there's a kid that's on the top bunk that starts choking like he was found. We turn on the light right before he stops choking. The Creeper is not even close to him. Nobody was even near him. We think he's just BSing us. He has bright red handprints on his neck though. We're all thinking, bro, what the hell? Are you okay? We calm down and begin to question each other. We quickly find out that nobody had moved from their spots when the lights went out. There's more WTFing. We quickly notice that the window is fogged up and ice cold in the middle of the summer, and a person's silhouette can be seen. Then it's just gone, and the window defrosts quickly. We called it a night after that. We never saw that thing or silhouette for the rest of my stay at camp. I don't know what it was or who it was, but I'm glad that they never showed up again. I live in Chicago, but I have grandparents who live way out in the sticks in Tennessee. I visit them on and off throughout my childhood, but I'm not super close with them. Anywho, around 12 years old, my parents take me to visit my grandparents like we do every couple of years. While there, I met with a cousin exploring the woods. My cousin ends up climbing a tree, and I'm walking around by myself when suddenly I need to pee. So naturally, I whip out the little feller and start doing my business. My cousin suddenly starts yelling at me to not do that, and he scrambles down the tree. He points to some pile of stones, which I had seen, but didn't think they were important. He tells me it's bad luck to mess with them, and he drags me back to my grandparents. As we're heading back, I start feeling incredibly ill. My cousin got me pretty scared, and I begin to think, oh shit, I'm dying. My cousin tells my grandpa what I did and looks really concerned. He drags me over to a cow and forces me to pull milk out of it and into a pail. Meanwhile, I'm beginning to feel feverish. I ask him if I can lay down. My parents were called, and they're there now. My mom is trying to pull me away, but my grandpa holds her back. Dad doesn't interfere, and she and Dad begin to bicker while I'm thinking that I'm going to puke. Then, Grandpa makes me carry the pail all the way back to the woods. I'm pretty sure that I'm about to pass out before we make it, but my grandpa keeps shoving me along and says that he can't carry the pail for me and that I have to do it. My arms are getting weak, but I manage to hold on to the pail until we get to the woods. I start feeling really bad, woozy, and things are beginning to blur, but I hear my grandpa tell me to dump the milk on the stones as he shoves me forward. At that moment, I puke everywhere, all over the stones. There's vomit all over my sweater and everything. I drop the milk. It splashes over the stone. I hear my grandpa cursing and my mom yelling. Everything goes black and I pass out. I wake up hours later. Grandpa's there. Mom and Dad are still bickering, but Mom looks relieved to see me wake up. She rushes to hug me, and Grandpa pushes her back. He leans in really close and says, "Don't ever disrespect them like that again." then gives me a glass of milk and forces me to drink it down. It tastes awful. There's something in it. For years, I don't set foot into the woods. Nowadays, I camp regularly. I just watch where I pee, I guess. I still get kind of shaken up from talking about it, but here we go. When I was 18, I was living at home, and this was in my small hometown in the middle of Tennessee. My dad and I have gone on long walks late at night for as long as I can remember. We left around 12:40 for our walk. We head away from the train tracks and further into the boonies, talking about work and politics and everything else. We turn this bend in the road where the cornfields stretch out toward the woods on the left. On the right are two houses with open yards, and they all have woods creeping up in their backyards. I start to hear a whistle from the cornfield. It's very sharp and short. At first, I mistook it for some type of bird. My dad didn't notice it at first. He just keeps talking like normal. It doesn't repeat for about 2 minutes. I start to hear something big walking around the cornfield. My dad shines a light to check for deer, but we don't see any eyes reflecting. And to be honest, I can't really see anything past the corn. It only moves when we're walking and not looking at it, but it sounds very large. This is the last stretch of road that has streetlights on it. At the end, it branches off into two roads, the left gravel and the right paved, but with no streetlights and woods on either side. I notice that the streetlights are cutting out right before we walk under them. This isn't something new though. It happens often when I walk late at night, but it still sets me on edge. We get to the intersection, take the right, and at this point, I notice that the trees are strange. Pine cones and acorns keep falling on the road near us, but only when we walked under them. The trees around were silent. It was like something was up there, shaking stuff loose. The whistle is following us. It stays to the left, just far off enough that I can't pinpoint its exact location. We're keeping quiet. I'm trying to ignore it. Dad's always been a little hard of hearing. He stops in the middle of the road. He looks way down to the left. He said, "Do you hear a kitten? I keep hearing something over there. It sounds like whining." I feel my stomach drop. The whistling gets louder. I said, "That's not a kitten. It sounds like a whistle. Let's just keep walking. Come on." I noticed that I haven't heard any bugs. When we left, there were the country bug sounds all around, in the trees and the grass. It's all stopped. I can't hear anything but that sharp, short whistle. The same intonation, the same length. It's like I'm hearing a recording. Dad begins to realize that something is off. I see his hand go to his hip by his holster. I know, in my guts, that this gun will not help. I convince him to turn around and just walk back past the cornfield. I panic and start rattling off stories about my coworkers, trying to pretend that I can't hear anything. There's more than one whistle now, not following us, coming from all different directions. My dad's getting uneasy too, walking as fast as he can without actively running. I start to feel like we're being chased. There are sticks breaking in the woods. The whistles seem to be closing in on us almost. The same street lamp goes out on us when we first walked in. At this point, I've been hearing the whistling for almost 15 minutes. We make it around the bend and into this more residential area. Everything stops all at once. We start walking toward the train tracks on the old highway, hoping to take the well-lit way home. I notice that the insects are back again. The cicadas and crickets are loud. It's almost comforting this time. We don't talk about it while going home. We get stopped by the cops for a couple of minutes for being out late, which delayed us a bit. When we finally got home, we expected everyone to be in bed. My dad is still freaked out. He says that he'll stay up with me for a bit. I'm thinking that it's as much for my benefit as it is for his. I don't think I've ever seen him look frightened like that. When we unlock the door, my mom and my little brother are standing in the dining room. My dad says, "What are you guys doing up?" Mom starts to talk, looking uncomfortable. She said, "I was sitting in my room and I heard a loud banging up here. It shook the walls, it was so loud. But when I opened my door, it just stopped. The washer was off. I opened it, and Jay, that's my brother's name, was standing up there, asking me if I had heard it." I ask how long ago was this. She says about 30 minutes or so. This was around the time that we have been having our experiences as well. Things like this happen in my house and neighborhood often. Something human walks around on the roof, and we hear something using family members' voices, sometimes inside the house. Just earlier that night, something had banged on the glass of the side door when I was standing by the stove. My dad heard my youngest brother talking to a voice that sounded like him a little over 2 months ago. I know that there's something wrong with this place, and I'm terrified. I just want to protect myself and my family from whatever it is that's following us and using our voices. In 2018, I had an experience with what I can only believe to be a Wendigo in southern Tennessee. I was 20 at the time. I was home on leave from the military. My buddies and I had been planning a camping trip for some time now. I started asking around and posting online if there was anyone with land that we could camp on. After some time, my mom finally hears back from a friend that we could camp on his land. He has a large parcel, about 400 acres. Everyone is excited. The day before we go is super rainy and overcast. We're really hoping that the rain clears up so we can still go, and miraculously, it does. My buddies and I load up in the car and head south. We are all excited as we're all from a large city in Tennessee and don't really get out to nature much. So we're driving along the freeway and we notice the amount of trees grow in density every mile. The four of us meet up with the landowner. I've never met this guy before, but he's a southern nice guy. We follow him in his pickup truck for about 20 minutes outside of this one stop sign town. After we leave that area, we're basically in the middle of nowhere now. We arrive at this gate that's on the side of the road. The landowner's brother is waiting there. The guy is kinda creepy looking, and so's the gate, but we think whatever. We got 400 acres to play around in. They take us about 150 yards to the tree line in their pickups, and then drop us off. Good luck, have fun, basically. After they leave, we set off into the woods, looking for a clear spot to set up our base. We find the perfect spot, and get to work. Now my dumbass only brought a tarp and a blanket. About 4 hours later, my lean-to is complete. But for them, it only took about 10 minutes to set up their tents and hammocks. We find out then that one of my friends had never been hunting before, so I decided to take him. Me and Rick set out with a rifle to try and find something to hunt. It's a .223. We brought 2 rifles, but left one at base camp. We're trudging along through the mud and thick brush, and then we realize there's no noise. It's completely quiet. I hear movement and see leaves rustle, but there's no animal to be seen. I think it must have been a squirrel. We continue. Nothing eventful happens. We walk back to our base. There's no leaves or foliage, just bare trees, tightly packed in a dense cluster. We have trouble finding the base on the way back, and then I hear talking and follow the sound, distant murmuring. But as we're following it, we realize that it sounds female. which we think that's not right at all. This creeps us out. We go the opposite direction, and we end up finding our camp. My other friends have a fire going good. They're cooking up bacon, and I think, that's weird. I didn't smell anything until we were right up on the fire. We all hang out until nighttime. I thought that we had brought more food than bacon and a few eggs, but oh well. My other friends are getting hungry, and it's already dark out. They decide to hike out to the car and go get food. I decide that I'll stay and keep the fire going. I have them take my phone to charge it. It was charged before we left, but I guess the cold weather must have killed the battery or something. I don't really understand it. They leave, making all the noise in the world while doing so. And I think, well, there goes my chance to hunt at night. So I'm just sitting there, by the fire, feeding it what little dry wood we found. The temperature is dropping rapidly. It's already 30 degrees Fahrenheit, and it's dropping further. But this isn't weird, since it's winter. But then I notice something from before. The eerie silence sets in. My ears begin to ring from the silence. There's no wind. There's no branches falling. Nothing. I'm feeling a little weird, spooked, but I maintain my composure. And then I hear a strange noise. It sounded like just a whisper at first, like a whispered death rattle, like somebody with asthma is being waterboarded after a marathon. And then I hear the distant sound of branches breaking. I think and hope that my bros are back with dinner, but it was coming from the wrong direction. I grab the rifle and a flashlight. I rack the charging handle quietly. My frozen hand slips off the handle and makes the loudest noise possible. And then I begin to look around with the flashlight. And then the absolute most stereotypical horror movie thing happens. My battery dies, and I think, great, here we go. I sit down by the fire to try and keep warm. My ears are wide open. There's no more movement, but there's slight whispers all around. The noises die down. I'm thinking that I must have some kind of PTSD, and these are just side effects of it. I'm sitting by the fire for another 5 minutes. I hear a noise in front of me. I ready my rifle and look up from the fire, and I think, what in God's name is standing in front of me? I see the legs of a deer attached to the decaying torso of a deer, but it almost looks human in a way. I can't explain it. It has these arms that dangle down, like almost skeletal, flesh coming off them. The head was the worst part. It looked like a deer with almost coyote-like features, with antlers. The hair on its body was half fallen off, half covered in blood. 5 seconds of looking at this thing, and my training kicks in. I hammered a pair, 2 shots to the chest. It stands there, breathing heavily now. I just let loose and mag dump the thing. There's a hideous scream. It sounded like the mix of a deer and a human with the high-pitchedness of a coyote. I reload my gun. I have to mag dump it again. It retreats back into the woods. Noise erupts all around me. The wind flows heavy. The trees begin to creak under the immense streams of wind. I hear distant coyote noises, deer noises, and human screams from before. And then, nothing. The world around me continues as normal. My friends finally arrive 10 minutes later. I have no way to tell the time as my phone is with them, but they brought Taco Bell, and they asked me, did anything happen while we were gone? And I said, no. It was a pretty quiet night. They asked curiously about the shell casings. They can tell from the look on my face that something happened, but I just tell them, I got bored. I stay up the entire night, stoking the fire as much as I can and keeping watch. At the first light of the sun, I got the hell out of there. I was never going to stay there any longer. I haven't been back since, but maybe these days I'd be willing to go again if I could get into contact with the landowner. I haven't heard from him in over a year. I don't know if what I saw was just a half-dead deer in the firelight, or if it was truly a Wendigo. Are they even in Tennessee? I don't know. The whole thing was scarring. So if any of those encounters stuck out to you, make sure to leave a comment and tell me which one. Do you have a story of your own? I have an email in the description below that you can send them to if you'd like to. Also down there is a PayPal and a Patreon link if you would like to donate to the channel that way, and super thanks here on YouTube. And if you just liked the video or are new, feel free to subscribe and make sure to tick the notification bell to make sure that you're notified whenever I put up a video. And with that, I think I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for pulling up a stump, and thank you for watching.